Well, it's a very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. I don't know how long it's been since I last did a show on a Monday night. I did a live one on Friday afternoon because I had the afternoon off. But this is the first West Ham Weekly, I don't know, 2 months or so, give or take. But I hope you're all doing well. You might see at the bottom of the screen that there's the live chat appearing. I can't even read it with my glasses on. It's so minute on the platform that I'm using. Probably worthless, but hopefully you can see the chat from everybody in the chat room. And I hope you're all doing well. And I hope you're all looking forward to the new season coming up. Of course, quite a lot of changes going on. We're selling, we've sold one key player. We've lost quite a number of players from the squad, players who have left because of their contracts expiring. And we haven't had that many come in, have we? You know, we've had 2 signings, I think pretty decent ones, very different. El Hadji Malik Diouf, I keep Malik Diouf for 19 million plus add-ons, and of course a free signing of Kyle Walker-Peters. And I think they're both good, but they're both defensive signings, of course, and we're all waiting for what Graham Potter is going to do with regards to our attacking play. You know, we're going to have 8 men behind the ball. Is that why we're buying all these defenders? But we've got a Gerd back, another defender from his loan spell. But of course, we've got Maxwell Cornet. Might he be the missing link up front this season? I'm joking, of course. Look, I've got a couple of guests that are going to come on as well, who should be familiar to you all. And we're going to have a chinwag about, you know, we're going to talk about Potter and the current squad. We're going to have a look at the squad itself. We're going to do a bit of a transfer roundup with the latest transfer news. Going to talk a little bit about the academy players, and then I'm going to touch on loan signings. And the reason why I want to do that is because of the story about Potter suggesting that he doesn't want a striker. And I'll explain why when I get the 2 lads on, and then we can chin wag it over. So let's bring them on. Because they're just sitting there waiting for me rabbiting on in the background. Let's get Chris on as well. Good evening, chaps. Good evening, Gary. Good evening, Chris. How are you?
Hello, Stel. Yeah, good, thanks.
Hey, Stel. Very good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Let's start off, shall we, with what should we start? Should we start off with the latest bit of news? Apparently, Graham Potter doesn't want to sign a striker. Who would like to start first on that particular little story?
Who said it? Who said it, Stel?
It's come from the usual suspect, as I'm sure you know, from Claret and Hugh, Sean Whetstone. I even talked to Sean earlier this evening, and I said, surely not, considering, you know, our situation with what we had with last season, Fulkrug being injured, and the only other option that we kind of had up front was Bowen. And if you recall, he got injured whilst Fulkrug was. And then we ended up having no strikers, and we're quite a bit makeshift. Of course, we had Antonio with the car crash as well.
My immediate reaction to this, before Chris has a word, right? My immediate reaction to this is, given the source that it's come from, and the fact that we know he's not Potter's biggest fan, and the fact that this could be as a result of him saying, you can't have a striker, but you want a loan. Do you want a cheap loan? And him saying, well, no, I'd rather have Nobody than a cheap loan. And therefore, he don't want a striker. So I ain't going to put words into his mouth. I am going to just see how the transfer window goes still. I'm not going to react to stuff like this. It's,
the story is that he wasn't offered a loan. That's my interpretation of what could happen instead of buying a striker. But my understanding is I've got a scenario here, like history repeating itself, because this time last year, we were after a striker who we couldn't afford, John Duran, and that went on. And then at the end of the summer transfer window, we panicked and brought in Nicholas Fulkrug, who, well, you know, we know what happened there. This summer, we're being told that Graham Potter wanted to target an unnamed striker. I haven't been given the name of this striker, an unnamed striker, so you can guess who it might be. Several options there, and we were told, or he was told, no, we can't afford that player. And Potter has turned around and said, "We're all right then. I don't want anyone." Now, all right, then I don't want anyone doesn't necessarily mean that we can't go out and get ourselves a lone striker. And I'm going to give you a couple of names.
Is that Sean, by the way, is that Sean quoting the manager? Is that a quote, is it?
It's Sean quoting a source very close to...
Right, so not quoting the manager, quoting in source who's
no,
saying
if
that
you're
the
quoting the
manager,
manager, then you're very, no. But you're absolutely right, Gary. You're not he wasn't quoting the manager, yeah. I don't know, Chris, what do you think of this? Does it sound odd that we're not getting or not looking to get a striker in?
I think it does. For me, it would be suicide not to bring another striker in. We can't necessarily rely on Fulkrug, right? We already know his injury record, so we're essentially depending on him staying fit for a season. Because who else do we have? Unless he's seeing something that I guess he's feeling positive going into the new season with, i.e. someone like Callum Marshall, who scored the other day. Maybe that could be a possibility, but no, we need a striker. We definitely need one.
Yeah, Callum Marshall, I mean, you've just mentioned him. I mean, let's say for argument's sake, throughout the rest of the preseason, he's banging the goals in. I mean, he took that goal really well on Saturday. Not only did he take it well, but he showed he had strength, pace, to get the ball from the flick from Paqueta and then take it just into the 18-yard box. And if he carries on scoring in preseason, what are we going to say then? Is Potter right? Does he think maybe he'll be a good enough backup?
I think it's a gamble. I think it's a real gamble because bearing in mind the guy hasn't necessarily been prolific in his previous loan spell. I think he needs another season in the Championship before we can really test him in the Premier League. Is my opinion. I might be completely wrong. I want to be wrong because it's great to see a young player come through, right? We love that, particularly a striker. We haven't had that for a long time, but I don't know. I think it's a massive gamble.
I'm not so, I'm not. Well, look, I'm not so sure that if you ask Potter if he wanted a striker, he'd say, unless I can have that one, I don't want a striker. I think that's nonsense. I've got to be honest. I don't believe a word of that. I do believe that he's been told he can't have a striker, like the striker he wants. When you said, Stel, that we tried to sign John Duran last summer, well, we did, or whenever it was, we didn't, did we? We offered 5 million under the asking price, the stated asking price, and Villa laughed at us. So it wasn't really trying to sign John Duran. It was just, for the papers, that was just to drive the headlines like it always is. So I think it's all nonsense. We didn't try and sign John Duran. This is the first sign he's not going to back Potter in buying the striker that he wants, whoever that is. I ain't got a clue. So really, it's up to Potter if he makes that judgment call and says, based on what he's got in stock, would he rather bring in some two-bob salthouse cheapie like Danny Ings, who we had for 3 years? Pointless. Or Calvert-Lewin, for instance, who...
Well, this is my fear, Gary, which is why I kind of suggested that maybe history might repeat itself, where we went out looking to get a big striker name. We couldn't afford him. We ended up with Nicholas Fulkrug. Yeah, okay, he's come back fit. He's come back looking lean and sharp, etc. But you're absolutely right. Both you and Chris have just said it. We can't rely on that. And if we are, I've got a feeling something will happen before pre-season ends where we're going to have to go, oh shit, we need to go and get ourselves a striker. Whether Fulkrug, gets injured, or whether Callum Marshall just doesn't do it, or whatever it may be. And then we are going to be faced with that late scenario of, well, what's left? And you're absolutely right. A Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the kind of player that will be left on the shelf, waiting to be picked up.
You've seen all the press reports. Calvert-Lewin has been everywhere. So Salthouse has been busy with his media contacts, getting that story out there and linking them. Even that he liked a post that the KWP posted about joining West Ham. So it's like that's the sort of thing that just don't get picked up on. But yeah, it was. This has been trying. My opinion is they've tried to force Calvert-Lewin on him. He said, "Nah, no thanks. I'd rather have nobody than him." That's what I'm thinking.
Has Sullivan not learnt his lesson from the past?
He'll never learn. I mean, he'll never learn.
You look at what we're doing.
Just me laughing will give you the answer to that.
It's not even worth asking the question, is it, still?
I'm actually hoping that he has, because if you look at what we've been, the players we've been, in general, at least 80% of the transfer targets, true or not true stories, 80% of the transfer targets have been primarily players in their early 20s.
Yes.
You know, and then we went out and bought youth, you know, at 20 years of age. And we keep hearing continuous stories about at the beginning of the transfer window, we heard a few stories about, you know, I think scaremongering about the Calvert-Lewin and one or two other aged players, etc. But overall, this summer, because we've kept hearing that Macauley and Potter are trying to emulate the Brighton scenario here, the Brighton transfer scenario, where you buy cheap, you buy young, you buy cheap. Hopefully they turn out good, and then you sell them for a profit in 1 or 2 seasons' time. You know, that's why I'm kind of almost believing that we won't get a Calvert-Lewin, but I'm feeling that we may end up having no choice to get a Calvert-Lewin.
Chris, do you want to say this?
I mean, it worries me. We were speaking about this yesterday, weren't we, Gal? For me, don't get me wrong, Calvert-Lewin was a good player. On his day, he was a good player, but those days are long gone. I mean, the guy is clearly injury prone. He's an injury prone striker.
Yeah.
I mean, his goal scoring record has been pretty atrocious for the last couple of seasons. I don't think he's necessarily been at his best because of his injury. Perhaps that's been playing on his mind a bit, so he's not been giving it 100%. Perhaps, I don't know. But I just go back to something that Gary and I spoke yesterday about, and that is that the fact that David Moyes seemed quite willing to let him go. Why on earth would we be willing to bring him into West Ham? And that's obviously concerning to me because, you know, he loved Everton. I think if he really felt wanted there, I would assume that he'd want to stay. So he's not the answer for us.
Was he offered a new deal? I don't think he was he?
No.
Well, which would make you question why would we take him then? If Moyes doesn't want to re-sign him. Exactly.
But that's his dream.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's take this as currently read that we're not going to get another striker in, and the talk. There's a lot of talk about we're going to target attacking midfielders who have got goals in them. That's what I was told. You know, in addition to this, you know, we can't get the striker that we want. We can't afford the striker that we want. So we're going to put all our eggs in the midfield basket. We know we need more dynamic midfielders. We know we need something different there. You know, I don't know how many of us winced on Saturday when we saw the starting lineup and we saw the same old in midfield. You know, Rodriguez, I was absolutely surprised that Rodriguez even got a game. But clearly, at this moment in time, he's part and parcel of the West Ham squad. Yeah. And you could see in both halves when Potter changed the team completely, all 11 players were changed. We looked good in parts. We looked good defensively. We looked okay. We looked okay. You know, the usual stuff, Bowen, but what Bowen can do. Diouf coming in looked quite sharp, quite like what I saw. You can see how Kyle Walker-Peters is going to fit into that setup. But the glaring obvious is striker and midfield. So if we're not getting a striker, what I'm being told is the main target is Harvey Elliott. And people are rightly questioning, and I know there are going to be some people who are not going to like what I say, but people are rightly questioning, well, hang on a minute, doesn't Harvey Elliott primarily play out on the right, out on the wing? And the answer is yes, but he can also play in the middle, but primarily on the wing. So therefore, is Potter looking to do what previous managers have done? And if we do buy Harvey Elliott, he's going to be pushing Jared Bowen into the striker role.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Is that I've spoken with a few Liverpool fans about this, and they all rate Harvey Elliott a lot, right? He can play in the middle. He can play out wide. With Liverpool, he only made 6 starts last year. So he's hardly got any football time at all, any game time at all. And he's usually been covering when someone's injured. So you can't really read into the fact that he's had a position, because he hasn't. He's been a cover player, or he's been playing in the cup. Yeah. So that aside, I don't think we can't base anything on. This is just my opinion, not Chris's, but this is my opinion. What we watched last season was a hybrid Moyes Lopetegui system because at the end, because you remember Lopetegui started last season throwing bodies forward, leaving us. We were wide open at the back. We just got destroyed so many times. But in the end, Lopetegui started to tighten it up because he knew that the players he had were still more attuned with the David Moyes style of football than they were with his style. So he was a little bit pragmatic towards the end at times. And you know, he nearly got himself out of jail a few times. But then when Potter came in, he tried to play his brand of football. It kind of went wrong on game one by half time with the injuries, right? He had bloody, you know, Fulkrug went off for months and Somerville was out for the rest of the season. I think that was a very different, if you remember that game still, me and Chris were there up at Villa. It was a very different first half performance we saw from West Ham.
One of the best first halves I've seen for many a year.
It was fantastic. And that to me was, blimey, this is going to be exciting. But then he had a huge injury crisis that everyone seems to have forgotten if they want to attack Potter. One of the worst injury crises. I mean, it took about till game 8, game 9 for him to get all those injuries back. Mm-hmm. And then they had to work their way into the side. By then, everyone had lost their shit with him because he'd reverted to a kind of hybrid Moyes-Lopetegui system. But they were the players he had in stock. You can't turn Soler into something else. Rodriguez into something else. Soufal, Souček, JWP. They were the players he had available to him. What the hell was he supposed to do other than that? It weren't like he was backed in the winter window, was it? Like a broken Irishman. That's it. And that might have been his choice, might not be, by the way, but who cares? If that was the only option he was given and it kind of one he didn't mind trying, having a go at, I can't blame him. I have felt from day one that he's not been backed. I just hope that he would be backed. And these first two signings, our window's only been running for 2 weeks still. These first two signings, I'm very, very impressed with. We had no window until we sold Kudus. 2 signings in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You know, the rhetoric of we can't buy.
I'm not going to second guess him or assume what his style of play is going to be because I don't think we've seen it yet.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Sorry, Chris. Go on.
No, I'd agree. I think he was hamstrung essentially straight after that Villa game when we had those 2 injuries. I mean, you can imagine. I'd like to imagine what Potter would have been like, or what West Ham team would have been like had Fulkrug and Somerville not got injured that game. Because I thought that first sort of 25, 30 minutes that they're on the pitch, we looked pretty electric. Yeah. It was probably the best I'd seen us play in a long time. And I think a lot of West Ham fans were getting really excited. You're thinking, crikey, Potter's really mixed this up a bit. Playing Somerville essentially as a right wing back, a position we didn't even think he could play.
It was a massive surprise in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because when he came on, we immediately all thought he was going to play on the left. And then when he filled that right-hand side, didn't he? Wan-Bissaka, Somerville, etc. And it looked, as you just said, it looked electric. And I remember the buzz there. I was there that night. The buzz in the stadium was like, we're onto something big here. So Somerville, for example. So let's put in our heads that we're not getting a striker. Let's say it's not all just sort of smoke and mirrors and we're not going to get a striker. Someone like Somerville, I mean, he played as a 10 or as a striker for Leeds. Am I correct in thinking that?
I think he played there at times. Yeah, he played on the left as well, right? Yeah,
he played as on the left and as a 10. He played both positions, but he's certainly not. Yeah, he has done. Yeah.
So therefore, is Potter thinking a little bit what like Moyes did? If you remember when Moyes was here and how many players he converted into a striker role, is Potter thinking much the same thing? Is he thinking, I've got Fulkrug, I may have Callum Marshall, depending on how well he does in the rest of pre-season, but I've got other options. I've got the likes of Somerville, who can slot into the middle, not an out-and-out striker, but can play as almost like, and I know people don't like this, I know Steve Tyler's in the chat and he's going to hate me here in this comment, a false number 9, and he can probably play Bowen in a false number 9 as well. Is Potter thinking along those lines then? Is that why we're not going to get a striker? And he's thinking along the lines of, we got Kyle Walker-Peters, and let's not forget, there's so many fans that have said Kyle Walker-Peters has not come to West Ham United to sit on the bench. Kyle Walker-Peters is looking to get a first-team place. He's not going to replace Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So you can imagine maybe, I don't know, a scenario of, I don't know, Somerville and Diouf on one side on the wing, Kyle Walker-Peters, and maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the other side, and then Bowen pushed into the middle.
Yeah.
Is that the way we're going?
I
Because
think
I'm
maybe
trying to make head or tail of why we wouldn't buy a striker.
I think maybe it's his kind of default response, because what he's focusing on is a priority area which has to be central midfield. So that is essentially where most of the bulk of the transfer funds that he has left remaining, he's going to have to invest into.
Do you think he's wrong in that, Chris? Do you think that's wrong to have that priority?
No, because midfield is the priority for West Ham. We all know it. I mean, it's a big gaping hole in there right now. So that needs to be addressed. But that doesn't mean to say that we do not need a striker, because we do. It would concern me, but first and foremost, I think midfield is the priority. Has to be right now, because there's no one that I think we can necessarily rely on at this moment in time. Up front, we've got one option, possibly two, in Callum Marshall. In midfield, who can we honestly say, hand on heart, we can rely on and think, you know what, I'm really happy they're going to be playing midfield next season for West Ham.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, Chris. And then it goes back to, I asked, okay, then, so if Harvey Elliott is the top priority for this transfer window, how close are we to signing him? And the answer was, we're not. So if this is our top priority and we're pushing the boat out and we're not close to signing him, what do we do? What then? I mean, I know there's talk about Fernandez from Southampton. I think he's all right. I wasn't that enamored by him last season. I didn't think he's decent. And there's been a talk about the Leicester player, whose name completely skips me right now. El Kudus. Again, all right, but again, not one pulling up trees. And then, of course, there's another midfielder that apparently has come back on the market, is Ardon Jashari, who now we've heard this from Italian clubs before, that they can't afford their signing on fee. That's why we got Todibo. Was it from Milan or Juve last summer, who couldn't afford his signing on fee? Hence, we went and got Todibo. And apparently, Milan can't afford. Now, Jashari has already said, as far as the stories go, we've made an offer. He turned around and said, no, Milan's the only place for me. But now Milan can't afford him. So, but an unproven, decent, I'm sure, but an unproven player in the Premier League. But we're going for a lot of unproven midfielders in the Premier League. McAtee is another one who, to be honest with you, of all the midfielders, sort of like attack-minded midfielders, I think for me, McAtee is going to be the one, because he had more of a taste of the Premier League than Elliott did last season, and maybe a platform in the Premier League for someone like McAtee might get him a place in the England squad next season.
He's a good player. He's a good player still, McAtee. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's definitely much more of an attack-minded midfield player than probably someone like Harvey Elliott, in my opinion. I think he is. He'd probably play more in the 10 role. So I think he would definitely offer us something there. But Gary and I have had this conversation a lot about a lot of these young players that we're being linked with. Now, this could go one way or the other, as it can do with a lot of signings we're going to bring in, and we've seen that over the years. But I must admit, I love the fact that we're trying to bring in young players, because I might be off here, but I remember the season when we got promoted to the Premier League, and we had a host of young players that were untested in the Premier League that excelled, right? We finished 9th in the league and we got to a cup final with players, as I say, untested, the likes of Rio Coca, Hayden Munn. Loads of these players, young, had a point to prove. And I think that is what I get excited about with some of these young players, is they have a point to prove, don't they? They've got a real point to prove. But also, so do a number of the players that we had last season that didn't have good seasons, for whatever reason that is, whether it's injury related, the likes of Fulkrug, the likes of Somerville. They are not going to want West Ham fans thinking that is their game. That's what they're about, because they're much, much better than that. I think Fulkrug could be a key player for his season, providing he stays fit. I really do.
Yeah. And I think this is I don't think anyone's suggesting that Fulkrug or many of our other players in the squad, maybe one or two, but majority of our players in the squad, I don't think anyone's suggesting that they're bad players. It's just like we've seen, and it hasn't been just last season, but time and time again, we've been ravaged by injuries, especially in the striker department. And that's where we become a little bit light, because most clubs will have 2 or 3 strikers on their books, and if they get one injury, someone else drops in and plays. And I know we can't afford to have. I mean, we up until the end of last season, we had quite a lot of players in the squad on massive money that we can't afford to keep. And we can't keep players like that happy either. There's a good reason why Kudus went, because we couldn't fit him into the team that Potter wanted to play.
When's the last time we had a striker? I mean, I'm not talking an Antonio or a Bowen who were converted strikers. When's the last time we had a striker who scored loads of goals? And we also had a backup striker. So we've got a good first choice striker in Fulkrug. We know that. He's proven. We sort of like him. He's turned into a bit of a cult hero. He loves being the big fucking German, right? Big smile on his face. But when have we had not only one striker, but bought a backup for that one striker and had 2 good strikers? You can't count Danny Ings. You can't count people like that. I'm talking about a striker who scored regular goals, which I've got no doubt that Fulkrug will if he stays fit.
I reckon you're probably looking about 2005, 2006 season.
I think you are. Yeah.
Dean Ashton, Bobby Zamora, Marlon Harewood, Teddy Sheringham. We had all of those players. Colton Cole. That was the last time.
Yes.
20 years ago.
Exactly. So that's why when you're talking about Callum Marshall, I don't want to send him out on loan. I want to see, well, first of all, I retract that. I want to see how he does against the big boy sides over in the States. See how he copes against them.
He could be the surprise package. He could be exactly what we need. I mean, look, he played in League One last season, but he did well. He's player of the season for Huddersfield Town. Now, my immediate expectation of him before I saw him, I was pleased that he's out, training with the senior squad. But my immediate thought was, well, he'll play, but he'll go out on loan next season. He'll play for a championship team, and if he smashes it, he's back. But you're right, Chris. He might be, maybe that's the sort of player that we need right now to just give him that opportunity. Whilst Fulkrug is fit, Marshall will only be a backup, until we need something different, etc. But could it be? Could it be? I mean, we talk about our youngsters. We keep talking about the West Ham Academy, the Academy of Football, and we know that Potter won't mind throwing in a youngster or two every night. Look what he did with Ollie Skulls last season. Threw him in straight away. First game that he played, that he managed for us. Could it be that Callum Marshall, if he continues, like I said earlier in the show, if he continues to score goals in pre-season, does he go out on loan or does he stay with us?
I think we need to keep him. If he's scoring consistently in pre-season, particularly against some of the Premier League teams that we're going to be playing in the USA, then I think we need to be looking at keeping hold of him. And, even though I said that maybe he needs a spell in the Championship to kind of really earn his stripes, let's not forget that when we had, and this is going back some, but when we had Jermaine Defoe, he was out on loan in Bournemouth. And they were, I think, at that time would have been the equivalent of League One, I would imagine. I know he scored a hatful of goals out there, but then he went straight into the Premier League and scored a hatful of goals for West Ham. So who's to say he couldn't be that? But my only worry with these types of young strikers, and we've seen it so many times before where they do relatively well in pre-season, they never seem to kind of really hit the heights that we expect. Maybe it's a pressure thing. You look at like Freddie Sears or Elliot Lee or people like that, Zavon Hines. There's so many young strikers we've tried to push into the first team and it hasn't worked out, but they've been hyped up as young players. So I don't, there's part of me that doesn't want to put that pressure on Callum Marshall. I almost want him to go out and have another spell and score loads of goals. But going back to your point, if he's doing it in pre-season, I think we haven't got an option but to keep him, because who else have we got apart from Fulkrug?
It's also not unusual for Potter to try different systems. He's not a one-trick pony. He will change it around. He will play players out of their natural positions, try them out, as he did with Somerville that night. He's renowned for it at Brighton, like playing a bloody a left back as a right winger or something like that. Playing a defender, a centre half up front. He's not afraid to try players out. Yeah.
This is why I asked the question about, like I mentioned about Carl Walker-Peters is not coming here to sit on the bench, and he's certainly not going to replace Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the in the starting lineup. So would it work that those two can and then pushing Bowen? And I know people. I did a show
as a second striker, not on his own, as a second striker alongside Fulkrug. You mean?
No, I'm not saying that. No. I'm saying as the alternative, yeah. with the likes of Somerville alongside him, something like that. Look, let me show you a couple of scenarios, because I've tried to figure out what's our best squad what's our best starting lineup with the current squad that we've got. With the current squad, so Areola in goal.
I hate the midfield. Yeah,
Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, and I'll put Diouf in there. And then the three in midfield: Alvarez, Paqueta, and Ward-Prowse. And then I've got three up front. I'm looking at a 4-3-3. You can mix that up, 4-2-3-1, whatever way you want to do it. But then I've got Bowen and Somerville supporting Fulkrug. Now, I don't know. You may agree or disagree with me, but I'm trying to fit in. How does Walker-Peters fit into that lineup? And I've come up with this. So you've still got your four at the back, and you can either have Walker-Peters as a right back, or you can have Wan-Bissaka, and then you're pushing one of those two further forward to accommodate, to support Bowen, Somerville on the other side, keep the rest as it is. With a four at the back, I'm trying to sort of figure out in my head. Potter is, if it's true, has said, I'm not signing another striker. If that's correct, then we know we've got Fulkrug as our main striker, but, he's fatigued, he comes off. What are you going to do? How are you going to change it up? I don't know. Does that look stupid? Does that look?
It looks fucking horrible. Let me be honest. Right? I hate that midfield. I never want to see that midfield playing together. No, I don't.
Well, it answers what Chris said. We need more midfielders.
Yeah, I don't want to see, really, unless I hear Alvarez come out and say he backs the manager, he backs the style of play, he wants to play for West Ham. I don't want him in the West Ham team, because he's done is fucking heart for a move, like he did before he got on the plane to play for Mexico. Ward-Prowse, I want to see him gone, really. He might end up being here. And the same as Rodriguez, I really want to see him gone as well. I want to see him replaced with younger players. But you're going to have a real problem, because some idiot paid 30 million for Ward-Prowse. We're not going to get that money back. Right?
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem with some of our players, Gary. I did a show, I think last week, where Ward-Prowse is on 115k a week. Yeah. Alvarez is on something like 90k a week. We're going to want, even if we want 15 to 20 million off Ward-Prowse, even if we give him away for 10 million, someone's going to have to, but someone's going to have to inherit his 115 grand a week salary.
He's worth about 10, let's be honest. He's worth about 10 million. And Alvarez, I think we get good money for him, because take him out of West Ham and the problems that he's had, put him in a league that's a little bit slower, where the game's played maybe a little bit in front of him. You got a different player on your hand. He got great hands. He got rave reviews playing for Mexico in the Gold Cup, the goal-scoring, cup-winning captain, who can play in a multitude of positions. I think he played centre-half for some of that tournament. But it's funny how he had an absolute mare last season for us and appeared to just give up and get himself sent off a few times, which I haven't forgotten. Okay. Nor about Kudus.
Let me ask you then. You can see the players that we've got on the bench and academy and other players on the right, on the other side of the screen. So if not Alvarez and if not Ward-Prowse, I'm talking about current. I'm talking about current, not what we want to get. I'm talking about current.
It's very difficult still. It's very easy for me to say, and Chris, and I've seen in a minute, right? It's very easy for me to say who I don't want in that starting lineup, and that's those two in midfield. Not interested.
Okay.
But
which proves Chris's point.
Right?
We need more midfielders.
We're yet to see the kids. We don't know how good they are until we've seen them play against grown-ups. I know on Wally Kwu that Alvarez is a solid quality holding midfielder. He absolutely is. And if he wants, it's what I said up front. If he wants to commit himself to the manager, the style, and the club, and stop trying to get away and cause trouble and fight with managers, etc., I'd embrace him, and he can play for us, in my view.
Okay.
But he's got to do
Put that to one side for a moment, and I don't disagree with you. I'm trying to figure out the striker situation. If Fulkrug is fit, he obviously plays, and you'll have, forget the midfield at the moment. I'm trying to sort of focus on the striker area. So Bowen and Somerville, when they're ready, will probably support, I would think, in a sort of a back four, will probably support Fulkrug. But when Fulkrug is out, this is the point I'm trying to make. When Fulkrug is out, what do you then do? Who do you then bring in? I can see the point in having Harvey Elliott, because if Elliott plays as a right-sided attacking player, instead of having Wan-Bissaka there, for example, you could have Harvey Elliott and Somerville either side of Bowen. Would that work, or is that still not going to get us the goals?
I don't think that's Harvey Elliott's favoured position. I think he's being played there. I don't think he's necessarily that is his favoured position. I mean, for me, Ward-Prowse is a no-go, right? I agree with Gary on this, and I think predominantly the consensus of West Ham fans will say the same thing. I'd like to think there's a scenario that we can let him go back to Southampton, pay a bit of money, which I know sounds a bit ludicrous because we paid 30 million for him in the first place, and get Matías Fernandes in exchange. I would be all for that deal because I think that would be a good piece of business for West Ham. You're talking about a 21-year-old kid that is essentially going to get better and better, and I think he's got the raw ingredients to be a top Premier League player. I mean, he was one of their best players last season in a very poor Southampton
That would
side.
basically mean that we would have to subsidise James Ward-Prowse's salary, which we did last season with Maxwell Cornet, we did last season with a Gerd. Are we going to end up having to subsidise like 70% of his salary just to let him go?
We've just taken God knows how much off the wage bill still. We did it with Zuma last season as well. We
nearly 30 mil. Yeah, nearly 30 mil.
Yeah. So what's the difference? Get rid of him if he's no good to the manager. And I can't see that he is. If he is and he's still here and he's got a use for him occasionally, it's fine. It's Potter's choice, right? But me, based on what I saw last season and the season before, he's not for me.
No, he's definitely not. And I think with regards to the Alvarez situation as well, again, I think he is a very good player. He's got the ingredients there, right? He's got the ability, but let's not forget he's fallen out with 3 managers on the spin now. In Moyes, obviously Lopetegui. Yeah. So it's, would we really, really want to hold on to him? Does he really want to stay at West Ham? I don't think he does. When you look at that midfield that you had there, Stel, there is a situation where actually all 3 of those players might not be at West Ham at the start of the season as well.
Well, there's the whole issue with Paqueta as well. Absolutely. So we know that Potter, you're right, Gary, Potter mixes it up. He can also play a 3 at the back or 5 at the back, whichever you want to call it. All right, forget that I've still got Alvarez in there. I've taken Ward-Prowse out. I hope that makes you happy.
Thank you.
But again, trying to accommodate the players. Now, you can see on the top right-hand corner, there's Naif Gerd. Now, my understanding is I'm sure many people watched the video I did this morning of the Swiss international Hajari. Apparently, a story came out late last night that we had a verbal agreement, and throughout the whole day, we've been told that that's not the case. So Hajari's not coming, and I asked, well, does that mean a Gerd is staying? And the understanding is that a Gerd has had a conversation with Potter, and that he's keen to play under him. So I think that's like the Alvarez thing, isn't it? If he's going to commit himself, are we happy with that?
100% for me. I would. I think Aguerd's a good player. I do. I know he's got a mistake in him, but he has something that we don't have, with our current defenders that we played last season. That's pace. He's incredibly quick, and I think we need that in the back line. Particularly on Premier League team, you need to have fast defenders. So we need him. We need someone with that type of pace that he's got. I know he didn't play well against Grasshoppers the other day, and people were calling him out for that. But let's not forget, it's the first game of pre-season. These guys, it's all about fitness, right? So I'm not going to judge him off that performance. But let's not forget, he was one of the standout centre-backs, in the Spanish League last season. Real Madrid were looking at him. So why would we not see a place for, Naif Aguerd at West Ham? I'd like to think that we can. And for me, that team that you've got there is a much more balanced team than the one you've showed before that. I think that's probably as good as it gets to West Ham right now, if you look at the current players we have.
Are these our best 11 players that we've got available to us? Question mark over Alvarez. I get what you're saying about him. But then we've got to look at the bench, and we've got Dinos there. We've got Kyle Macauley magnificent.
There.
Yeah. Rodriguez, which, I'm going to ask you about the Scottish lad in a minute. But is this the best that we've currently got? The 11 that's on the pitch right now?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what. In theory, if you took it on skill set, capability, all that kind of stuff, you could say yes. On will they turn up? I don't know. I think talent-wise, it's the best. Ability-wise, it's the best. But like we saw with Kudus last year, it's pointless having ability if you don't bother turning up.
Yeah. What about this lad? Does he deserve a chance to stake a claim in the team, or is he really more a bit part player?
Well, he's the reason. He's not a kid, but he's done a lot of one-to-one physio work to bulk himself up. He does look a little bit bulkier, not much, but a little bit bulky, a little bit heavier. He was a bit lightweight when we saw him at Chelsea, but even though he did quite well that night, but he was blown out of his arse at the end. And I think he learned that night what it takes to compete in the Premier League. It's a whole different level of fitness to what he had, right? So I'm hoping he's got that level of fitness now. You won't get match fitness without matches, obviously. But this is why I'm interested in the pre-season tour still. It's not to watch the established players who will only be giving it 70%, 60%. If Aguero's got nothing to prove, he'll come back and make a few fuck-ups and people will judge him, but he ain't judging himself, I wouldn't think. I'm only interested in the players that matter, who genuinely are going to try and take this chance to prove himself. The kids, Irving, people like that.
So Irving is one that could potentially prove himself. So let's get on to our youngsters. We've talked about Callum Marshall. Now, I was a little bit critical of our youngsters in the middle of the park in the second half. And you're absolutely right. It was only the first game. But Freddie Potts, he's earned his stripes, hasn't he? You know, being out on loan 2 seasons in a row, player of the season at Wickham. I think I don't know if he got player of the season at Portsmouth, but they wanted to keep him. When we talk about Alvarez, for example, and you know, you don't like having Alvarez in the team, which I understand because of his attitude. Is Freddie Potts one that we should be hoping is going to prove his worth in this pre-season?
100%.
Do you guys think he's ready?
I think he is. Whether I'm right or not, it remains to be seen, because I think he's stepped up, you know, year on year, right? He played League One, played Championship, showed that he can play at those levels quite easily. Player of the Year 2 seasons on the spin. So I think he's definitely one that I think most West Ham fans will be pinning their hopes on, that can cement his place in midfield, because he, to me, looks like he's got all of the attributes that we lack right now. You know, the fact that he's young, energy and abundance, he's very mobile. I mean, for me, I'd love to see him get into that first team, and I really want him to shine this pre-season, because that could solve a huge problem for us. It really could. And maybe something that we don't know about him. Maybe that's his plans. Maybe he's thinking that, he's going to feature heavily for us next season.
I think that he even runs like Declan Rice, right? Our midfield's been leaky since Declan Rice left. You know, since he left, we've lacked a cohesive dressing room. And I don't think, on all those counts, I don't think it can hurt having someone like him and the other kids, some of whom are also West Ham fans. They care for the club. It's going to improve. It's going to improve the dressing room. I think him as a player, I think he was almost ready for a go last summer, because of all the shitty games we watched out in Florida. That was a really abhorrent tournament, wasn't it? But I didn't see what he did wrong to just be sent out on loan again.
Yeah, and he couldn't have done any worse, could he, than the players we had.
Sorry, Chris.
No, sorry, Stel. I was just going to say he couldn't have done any worse than some of the players that we did play last season.
Yeah. And I was actually surprised, given how well he did. And I know people will say, and very much like they're saying about Callum Marshall, who only played in League One last season. That's what a lot of fans were saying about Potts at the beginning of last season. Well, hang on a minute, it was only Wickham, it was League One. And I was actually surprised he was sent out on loan. I thought he was going to be one of the young players that was going to be kept as a good backup. And it did surprise me. That was probably Lopetegui for not maybe knowing enough. I mean, I know he said he did his homework before he didn't West Ham, but I wonder if he was, he had a video of West Ham in the corner, but was actually talking or having lunch with friends in the,
You know what he's renowned for, Lopetegui?
Go on.
He's fucking fantastic at giving an interview.
Yeah, he's very,
really
he's very persuasive. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When you can understand him, of course.
But job interviews, they're his specialty. He knows how to sell himself. He sold himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy didn't have a clue. He didn't have a clue. I mean, I've spoken to someone that is very close to West Ham, like really close. You know who I'm talking about, Gal. I think you do anyway. Yeah. And I mean, he's told me firsthand that the players just did not have a clue what he wanted. He didn't know what he wanted. Yeah. I know we all know that, but I've got this firsthand from someone that He's very integrated into the club. So I don't think he did have a clue with the youngsters. I just think he sent them out and didn't really kind of look twice. Honestly, I don't. And I think he had talent there that he could have probably used. But
well, what mystified me was when he was in Stuck. We were really in Stuck in the winter transfer window and crying out for midfielders. He still didn't bring him back.
Yeah, and we were crying out for that. But
he left it too late, didn't he?
Yeah,
to bring him back. Yeah, there's another youngster who I think kind of showed that he probably does need a spell out on loan. Is Lewis Orford. Now, Lewis Orford got a big contract last year. When West Ham realised that he was coming to the end of his current contract, would have been out on a free in this summer. Got a big contract, but I like him. I think he's got a lot of good technical ability. But when I saw, and again, I know it's not fair to judge just on one half, but when I saw comparing him and Potts, I thought, Potts did all right.
Totally different players.
He did a lot better than Orford did.
Totally different players. He's like he's a playmaker, isn't he? And he plays. The beautiful thing about Orford is he plays with his head up, and he seems to. I know it's youth team football, but he seems to know where the ball's going before he receives it. And he just seems like to be a real classic West Ham player. I really think he's going to make it and be something special. Whether that's this season or next season, I don't know. What do you reckon, Chris?
You know what I think about him. For me, he is one of the standout youngsters we've got at West Ham. Talent-wise, I think he has his awareness. I mean, he reads the game so well. But I would agree with Stel. I think perhaps maybe a spell out on loan would be the best thing for him in terms of his development. But I'm really optimistic about him. He is the one. I mean, I don't even think. I think he's a level above George Earthy, in my opinion, in terms of talent. I do. People might disagree with me, but there's something about Orford for me.
I agree. I think
I'm
he's
with
special,
you on that.
Really special.
Chris. I like Orford. I really want Orford to be successful. I like Earthy. I really want Earthy to be successful, but I think Orford will overtake him.
Yes.
I think they're both destined to go out on loan next year. I can't see Earthy staying. Casey as well, the young central defender. I think that those are three prime players who are going to go out on loan next season. I want to see them go out on loan to championship teams. It's great going to League One, etc. But I want to see them sort of get really dirty in terms of getting stuck in, a bit like what Potts has done. Potts played for a struggling Portsmouth team and dragged them up by their bootstraps, and really got them playing it. They absolutely loved what he did. He controlled that midfield for them. And I want to see Potts, I want to see Earthy and Orford do the same, and Casey do the same. And if they're better for it after this season, then we've got three young players coming back in. And it's a question, isn't it? So someone asked me, why on earth are we going for all these young players? They're all 21, 22 years of age, not that much older than our own academy players. So why are we not giving our academy, are the likes of Elliott and so on and McAtee, are they that much better than our current crop of academy players?
No, I don't think they are. I don't think I'd, for instance, say Elliott is a better player than Lewis Orford, because I really rate Lewis Orford. It's just that players develop at different ages when they get through the youth team, right? And so you could have someone that's almost ready for a first team at 19, physically ready as well as emotionally ready, or you could have someone that matures at 21, 22. They seem to come through a little bit later now because they're not thrown straight in like they used to be. It used to be sink or swim a lot of the time, didn't it? Largely towards the end of the season when it was older, last few games. That don't seem to happen anymore either. I just think that we shouldn't judge a player like Elliott versus... They're at different stages of their development. Until they're the finished product, how can you judge them when they're still developing?
Well, right now you can. I mean, right now you could say, who would I rather in the team? Well, for me, it'd be Harvey Elliott, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
But that's it. But he's come through the Liverpool system. He's had some first team game time. He's played for the young England team as well. He's been, he's been surrounded by world-class players, and he's been training with that world-class first team squad, right?
Yeah. And you've also got to factor in here, Gal, that he's been playing, largely on the right-hand side of a Liverpool midfield. Yeah. But look at the players in the middle that he's competing against to get into the centre of the park. I mean, that is his preferred position because he can play as a deep line central midfielder, a central midfielder, and as a right midfielder. He's very versatile. So if you look at it from that perspective, I like the fact that we're bringing someone that has that versatility to West Ham because we kind of need that. Not players that we're going to shoehorn into different roles because we've tried that before. It doesn't work. We don't want that. But I think he does have natural versatility, and I think he would be happy to play pretty much wherever the manager wants to play him, primarily if it's in those three positions.
That's what I'm looking for, what you just said. Whatever the manager wants them to do, they're going to do. And that's why I really like young, enthusiastic players. I don't want big fucking egos. I'm not interested in that.
Kudus wanted out a long time ago, right? And this is why I'm not bothered why he's gone. I'm genuinely not bothered about it. I know a lot of fans are up in arms about it, but why keep a player that doesn't want to be here, first thing? Yeah. But also, I don't understand, and Gary and I have had this conversation many times still. I don't understand why we even signed him in the first place, because he's a right winger. He's an out-and-out right winger, and we had Bowen there. So it's not such a bad thing, because this enables us to essentially kind of build a balanced team now, which we have not had for a number of seasons, providing, of course, that money's invested into the right areas. I think left wing back in Diouf is definitely a right move, but we have to get the next signing has to be a central midfielder. Got to be. That has got to be the priority for me.
Yeah, I mean, my gut tells me that the reason why we bought Kudus is I think with Steiden at the helm at the time, I think he was thinking that Bowen was going to be moved on after a season or two. That's my theory. Bowen, forget 29 years of age now, and I think in Steiden's head, I'm not saying I've been told this, it's just my theory, but I think in Steiden's head, Kudus came in at the age of 23, Bowen was 27, 28, a year on, Steiden's thinking we're going to have to replace Bowen at some point. Kudus would be the perfect fit. And I think that's what the plan was. Didn't quite work out that way, because Bowen has proved time and time again that he'll play for this team on Hackney Marshes if he has to. He's that sort of player. Kudus, I'm with you, Chris. I think what sticks in the oar is everyone going, hang on a minute, why are we selling a player for 85 million for 55 million when he's worth 85? He was never worth 85 million. That's the thing. There was an 85 million release clause, but he was never worth that sort of money. And of course, the other thing that kills us is the fact that he got sold to Spurs. But then when you hear about his demands, if it's true about his demands to Chelsea, about how he wanted to play, where he wanted to play, etc. Maresca was like, on your bike, mate. I've got Cole Palmer who plays in the position that you want to play in. Why would I be replacing him with you? And if that's true, then I'm not surprised that Spurs. It's funny because I said quite several weeks before he was sold, I said the only likely two teams he's going to go to suit him are Spurs or Newcastle. I thought Spurs or Newcastle would be the two teams because Arsenal looked like they were not interested.
I didn't want him.
Chelsea looked like they were not interested. A lot of talk about Liverpool, and they didn't show any. Look at the players they've been buying instead of him.
Yeah, I've got a question for you both. And people in the chat as well. And that is, if you didn't know his name was Mohamed Kudus and you just took him on his performances and his stats from last season, how much would you think he's worth? I'd go about 5 million. Let's be honest.
Well, that's unfair. I think he's what he's worth. What we paid for him, 35 million pounds.
Exactly. I mean, but that's on his name only, right? That's on his name and his reputation. It ain't what he done last year, is it?
You got to question one. Sorry, Steve. Sorry to interject there, but you've got to kind of question one thing, right? Bearing in mind that Arsenal signed Madueke, you've seen these other players, that have gone to Newcastle. Who was the guy that went to Newcastle from Forest? I forget his name now. These players, in theory, they're not as good in terms of talent. They're not as talented as Kudus. So for me, I genuinely believe that the guy's got an attitude. He's got an attitude problem, and this is why these other teams have not been going in for him. And he's landed at Spurs. I think by default, he said that Spurs was the only other choice that the only club he's ever going to join. There were no other clubs that wanted him. Exactly. So I think what Spurs will see is probably maybe half a good season with him, and then he'll peter off. I wonder if he's going to get on that right hand side as well. Because they play.
I think he's going to do well the first season. Unfortunately. Yeah. I think it's the second season that's going to be difficult for him because I've got to try and put my head in Kudus's head for a moment. Like, I remember the interview that he did when Lopetegui took over. And I remember an interview that Kudus did, and he said, this manager is going to give me the freedom of the park, or whatever it is he said. He's going to let me play my game, etc. And it seemed to indicate that Kudus finally felt free. He was going to be the star man, the star boy. And we know that's what he likes. He's got an ego. He wanted to be the key player. And I think he was happy that Lopetegui was going to give him that freedom. And what happened from day one? He was out on the left, and he stayed out on the left.
Well,
and then
he was out there already.
Potter came in, I thought maybe Potter would change it around. And again, he stayed out on the left. He
tried him in some different positions, though, Stel. He tried him in some different positions.
Tried him
None
in the
of it
middle,
worked.
and he played out on the right a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
But
he changed it
primarily
mid-game as well, didn't he? He changed it during the games. He cut him on the left, on the right.
Yeah.
But the guy's work rate off the ball was nothing short of atrocious, in my opinion. I've got this kind of weird thing still, and I was saying this to Gary the other day, that I do actually watch players when they haven't got the ball, just to see what their body language is like, what their work rate is like. And there were too many times last season when I was watching him, and he just stood there, not doing anything.
Well, Chris, the thing that he was doing a lot of last season was he got the ball, drove it forward, and then stopped and passed it back.
Yeah,
and he did that a lot. And that confused me. Either he kept hold of it too long, or he was getting into positions, and I thought, okay, he's getting into good, and then he stopped, and for some godforsaken reason, just seemed to shift it backwards. And then, as you say, there's a big reason. As if, like, I've done my bit.
There's a big reason for that. He never lifts his head up, and that is why he can't play in the middle. And Potter said he was quite bitchy. Potter, just after he left, he gave some report, and he came out and said he thinks he can play in the middle, but he can't. And then you read reports that Thomas Frank has told Kudus he's going to play in the middle. He'll be playing back on the left again before too much longer, because the right wing's already taken.
This is why, I mean, what you said, Chris, you give him a half a season. This is why I think he wants to impress. I think he will. But it's going to be interesting to see. I bet he doesn't play in the middle much, or if he does, he'll play the first half dozen games, and then Frank will go, you're not good enough to play in the middle, so I'm going to stick you out. Why?
Well, if you look at what Spurs had, though, right? I mean, Kulusevski was playing on the right, and then he moved into the middle because they played Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side. So now what you're talking about, moving Brennan Johnson to accommodate Kudus to play on the right-hand side. So if they do play Kudus in the middle, which I don't see it working. I'd agree with Gary on this. For me, he's got his head down too much. Teams double up on him as well. I think that was one of the big problems he had last season, which is why he kept playing the ball back a lot of the time. But actually, just kind of switching the subject slightly, which is why I'm quite pleased about the youth, because one thing you notice with him, he's very direct. He wants to go straight into the final thirds, whipping across, right? Yes. And I think that's what we lacked last season. Constantly, our wingers would get right down to into the final thirds and they'd play it backwards or sideways. I want to see that ball moving quickly into the box, and I think Diouf proved that. I know it's against Grasshoppers, but that's what I understand his game is like. Is that he's much more of a dynamic, fast sort of wing back that he's going to get forward and try and hit those, the final thirds. And I don't think we're doing that enough last year. I don't. More balance.
I'm going to make a bold statement now. I think Diouf is going to get more assists than Kudus will next season.
Get more goals as well.
I think. Do you know who I think is going to be Diouf's dream target? The big German,
Füllkrug.
Füllkrug. Yes. I mean, you can just see that now. You can see Füllkrug going, just line them up, mate. Just line them up. And I think actually Diouf is going to probably get more assists. Maybe a few goals. I know he's a good goal scorer as well, but I'm looking forward to seeing if it happens, if it works out right. You could see Füllkrug getting 10 headers in a season. I alluded to what Nottingham Forest did with Chris Wood last season. Yeah. All they did was counter attack, and as soon as you get that ball out on the wing, cross it in, there's going to be someone there to put it away for you. And if Diouf does that, I don't know what Walker Peters is crossing like. It's not that is it? Well, what Wan-Bissaka's crossing isn't that great either. But maybe on the left side, Diouf knocking that ball in, and if all Füllkrug has to do all game is stand in the 18-yard box and wait for that ball to fly over, I'll be all right with that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Diouf will bring, though, for West Ham. I really do. And I don't want to get too excited. I know it's only a pre-season friendly and whatever, but I do feel that the attributes that he possesses is just, we lacked that so much last year. We really did. I just like the fact that he's so much more direct.
Not only physical, Chris, not only football intelligence, but his attitude as well. He's just that positive, person in the dressing room, because clearly when he got that send off from Slavia Prague, not only was all the crowd on their feet fucking loving him, every member of the coaching staff, the management, all the players, even some of the opposition hugging him. He's all smiles. I wonder if it's similar to Kudus' send off. I wonder.
No, well, that's exactly it. I don't think any of the West Ham players, honestly, I don't think they gave two hoots about it. I really don't. One thing I actually do, sometimes when players leave West Ham, I find it quite interesting to see what current players like their Instagram posts when they've moved to a new club.
Yeah.
And for my liking, when I looked at it, I didn't really see any West Ham players that were liking it. They weren't. They weren't. So,
yeah. I thought that as well. I kept trying to make head or tail of last season, and I think you probably were both at the Brentford game when he didn't appear in the second half, and then we got a message going, "Oh, Kudus has fallen out with Lopetegui. There's been something's happened in the dressing room." And I don't know if you recall, as Kudus was coming out, he kicked a seat or a bucket or something like that, in anger. And then before he sat down, and everyone was like, "Fucking Lopetegui, doesn't get on with the players. What's wrong with that manager, etc." All of a sudden, you start to think. Well, you look at hindsight and you go, maybe it wasn't Lopetegui, maybe it was Kudus, maybe Lopetegui turned around to him and said, "You're not playing as a team, as part of a team. I'm going to drop you," and he lost his rag over it. And wasn't it Antonio that accused him in training?
Yes.
You're too greedy or something like that.
Don't pass the ball. Yeah. And that's
so I do wonder what you said, Chris, about no one sort of saying farewell or anything like that on his social media sites. Maybe they're glad to see the back of him. I'm looking at the players. I'm looking at the players right now in pre-season. I know it's pre-season. Everyone's got a smile in their face. They're all fresh, etc. Until we get thumped in the whatever game it will be. But everyone's got feels like Fulkrug, like with all the he's definitely leaving. He's not staying. He's definitely going, etc., etc. And you're looking at these players right now, and you're thinking they all seem really happy.
Yes.
Because someone is not there.
Paqueta's loving life, and he ain't even had the decision yet, has he? But he's loving life. He's
loving life. Yeah, he's got that hanging over his head.
Yeah,
I mean, the way he celebrated with Marshall after that, the way he flipped that cheeky bastard Brazilian flip.
Yeah.
When he got the ball and he was like, "There you go, son, off you go." And he loved it. And we haven't seen. All right, it's a pre-season. All right, it's a friendly, but we haven't seen anything like that from any of our players for quite some time, have we?
No. It can have such a big impact when you've got a player that is just playing for himself. And I think that was the situation with Kudus. I don't think he was a team player. Granted, I know that he's a very talented player, but I genuinely believe, as you've pointed out there still, that I just don't think I don't think West Ham players are too bothered that he's gone. I think he's a bad egg. You think about his character. I mean, the guy's gone to Spurs and he's put it out there, I only wanted Spurs. It's so disrespectful to West Ham fans. It speaks volumes about the guy's character to me. It really does. Imagine what he was like in that dressing room. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I just don't.
When he was talking about his career in that interview, it went something like this. He said, "Yeah, I was at Ajax and I learnt my trade there and I did really well. Then I went to West Ham and now I'm at Spurs."
Yeah.
It's like, that was it. Cheers, mate. You've been there fucking just over a year. Yeah, fucking glad he's gone. I'm really glad he's gone. He can piss right off. Sorry, Stel, I know you don't like swearing on your show.
You said it earlier, Chris. A more balanced team without him.
I think so. I've been saying this all along. I really do, because I think we've been shoehorning him into a position that he's not happy to play in, doesn't want to play in, and was not particularly effective playing in. So now that we've got someone with genuinely can play on the left-hand side in Diouf, or when Somerville gets fit again, can play on that left-hand side, I think there is more balance about it. But we need the midfield right. But I do think on both sides now we've got balance. We just need to get the midfield right. And I think we could be talking about potentially a decent season by all accounts. I don't get too excited here, but I like, as I said before, a nice, good young team with a point to prove. And there are so many players with points to prove. So many.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. 100%. And of course, now we need to add to this. And the latest player, and I know people aren't going to like it, but another defensive-minded player, of course, is Madsen Madsen.
Is he though? Is he defensive-minded still? He isn't, is he? He plays on the edge of his 6-yard box. He carries the ball out.
Yeah. He's been described as a sweeper keeper.
Can I just say something, right? And that is, this is where Chris and I disagree heavily, right? And that is, Chris is striker first. I am keeper first, even though keeper hasn't come first. I believe in order for the Potter system to survive and to thrive, you need the keeper, right? Otherwise, it's all going to go wrong when it reaches Areola. You need the keeper, the sweeper keeper. He's going to set off every attack. He's going to be neat and tidy and expect the defenders to do what they're going to be doing, unlike Areola. He'll take responsibility, take charge. And only one criticism of him is he punches too much. He needs to learn to catch. But that'd be a great signing. Do that, sort the midfield out, sort the wing backs out. All those positions are absolutely essential. And that gives you, with Fulkrug and Bowen, it gives you a team with a striker and a half. But it would be nice to have an additional backup striker to go behind Fulkrug. But all I'm saying is that structure needs to be sound. Go on, Chris.
I just want to, in my defence here, Gary, because you said this is where we disagree, right? So we had this conversation going back a number of weeks, if not months ago. Yeah. And the reason why I said striker for me was more important is because we didn't have one, right? We did not have a striker. And I know, granted, Areola had a pretty poor season, and obviously Fabianski has now left. For me, at that particular time, I thought a striker was absolutely essential going into the new season because we all thought that Fulkrug would leave. And if Fulkrug would leave, they would have no one because we knew that Ings had already gone. So there was context behind why I said that. But I'm in agreement. I think we do need a good goalkeeper. Yeah. But, you're talking about something I said probably about 3 months ago. All right, it was about a year ago. You said Mavropanos was a world beater, mate. So, which...
How dare you? You called me a shirt.
It's moment in time. Mavropanos is still in the squad and it's looking likely from what I've been told. The goalie will be the last defensive-minded player to sign, and then it's all it's all about the midfield.
We really need it still. We really need it. Yeah,
the big Greek is
he's got a stay.
Do you know what? Ironically, there were times last season, the stick that guy gets, and there were times last season when I looked at some games he played and went,
didn't deserve it.
He's been our best central defender, and I know people will laugh at that, but when I look at Kilman, who can't head the ball, and I look at Tadibo, who keeps going, oh shit, I'm a little bit tired now. I want to come off after 70 minutes. Mavropanos, he's got an error in him. He absolutely does. He's got an error in him, but he's still there. So he's going to be an integral part. He'll be a backup.
I backed him. I like to back the underdog.
You're laughing, Chris, but he's not going anywhere.
No, I agree with you still, right? Sorry, Gary. I've got to say something. I do agree with you because I think Mavropanos, there have been games where he has been our best defender quite a lot of the time. But it's just that one mistake that he makes suddenly just completely papers over everything good that he's done in a game. So it's just too many frequent mistakes. That's his biggest problem. If he could iron that out.
I've got a sneaking suspicion, Chris. I've got a sneaking suspicion a lot of that was to do with a flimsy midfield in front of him, exposing pacey players to run at him directly, and that shouldn't be in the game plan when you've got Mavropanos at the back.
You're building the love back again. He's coming back at it for Mavropanos.
Honestly, you bought me this shirt. It's reinvigorated my enthusiasm. He's going on the wall. He's going on the wall, and when he goes on the wall, I think his luck will change. His luck will change. It will grow again. You watch.
Still, can I ask you a question actually about Mavropanos? I'm intrigued with to get your answer on this. At current, if a team came in for Mavropanos, what do you think he's worth? What do you reckon we could realistically sell him for?
12 mil.
18, 19.
12 mil.
Gary and I have a bet going, right? I said to Gary that there's no way he's going for more than 15 million. Gary disagrees. He thinks Mavropanos is worth more than 15 million.
No, I don't. He really isn't.
Still, I didn't. I said dollars.
Get your wallet out, Gary. Get your wallet out, mate. Come on. I'm waiting for that 50 quid.
Or use the trick that everyone uses. Say a figure. 18 million pounds or 18 million euros, because there's still a difference between the two.
I said euros. Yeah.
No, he's not.
I said 15 million euros.
Okay, I'm going to bring it all the way back. Now you're going to hate me for doing this. I'm going to bring it all the way back to the striker situation, because if it is true that we're not getting another striker, if, let's say for argument's sake, Callum Marshall just doesn't make it and he's sent out on loan, there is another option that could well happen, apart from the freebies, the Dominic Calvert-Lewins and the Callum Wilsons, which from my understanding, Potter has put his foot down, and he's got a record already of doing this. Andre Silva, he was offered him. Someone mentioned about Pedro from, I don't know what club it is in South America, but wasn't he injured for most of last season. But
Yeah.
he's been basically, the point is he's been offered quite a few players in the especially in the winter transfer window, and Potter has put his foot down and gone, no, I don't want any players like that. But there is a player at the club, or was at the club, that might come back.
Yeah, I feel similar about him to what I do about Calvert-Lewin. But truth be told, if he's fit and he ain't going to push to have to be a first-team regular, he's happy to sit on the back of the bench behind Callum Marshall, right? Then I wouldn't mind giving Mickey another season as a bit of a bit part. But obviously, that wouldn't be my first choice. My first choice would be to buy another striker.
Chris?
I think you can put your money on him coming back to West Ham, in my opinion. I think he will. I think it's going to happen. I just do. And I'm with Gary in this respect. I'm not really too fast if he stays at West Ham, providing he's, as you said, Gal, like a bit part player. Someone that he's happy to sit on the bench and, I don't know, be an impact sub for the last 10, 15 minutes and rattle the defenders or whatever, something like that. But definitely not as one of our kind of key strikers. If Fulcrum got injured, straight in Antonio goes. No, we need to have a second choice. Antonio's got to be like a third choice if he stays at West Ham. But
I don't believe he can ever recover fully from that injury and get back to true Premier League levels of fitness. He was pretty much out of that level of fitness anyway. He couldn't go 90 minutes playing the way he did, could he? He plays a full-on type of football, doesn't he, still? Physical.
Yeah, physical, and I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I know he's had a bit of a bad time with a car crash, his mother dying recently, etc.
Yeah.
But I remember saying at least 2 seasons ago, I thought he was finished at West Ham.
He was.
You know, I said at least 2 seasons ago that I think it's time. I think we kept missing our opportunity here. You know, and it was Moyes who loved him and gave him the number 9 shirt and, you know, poured love over him in terms of sort of like having, you know, a key striker, which I personally think, look, no disrespect to Antonio, he's been a fantastic player for West Ham. He's played 3-4 positions, key positions, right back, right wing, you know, striker, etc. And he's been superb.
Still, I'm suspicious, deeply suspicious about all this stuff, because I think pretty much that Sullivan loves to renew a player. He's been renewing players until they're beyond their useful life. Yeah, Sullivan.
Or Moyes.
I don't believe it was Sullivan or Moyes. I don't care who it was. It happened. But, you know, we will never know is the answer to that. We will never know. But I'm more likely to say that maybe I'd say that Moyes didn't get, you know, entirely all the budget he wanted and the players he wanted, and he had to settle for some of Sullivan's as a little bit of a, if I was to guess.
I'm going to stop you there.
He had choices, Gal. He had options. I'm sorry, he had options to sign players.
Because when
did he want Ings? Did he want Ings?
I'll give you the biggest bugbear I've still got about West Ham in terms of strikers, and I know not many people agree with me, but when Moyes arrived for the second time, he had what I would call a pretty nailed on world-class striker in his realm that he dropped for Antonio, which 100%. Was Haller.
Yeah.
And, you know, Haller not only proved to be a great striker before he joined us, when he played for Eintracht Frankfurt, he went on to prove he was still a very good striker when he went to Ajax, etc., before he got his cancer illness, etc. And he played in Champions League. Wasn't he the top goal scorer in Champions League during, you know, while he was at Ajax? That was a great striker for us who could have become an icon. And he did have choices, Gary. He then bought Scamacca, you know, who he misused, you know, because he couldn't play in the style that Antonio could play. And we could all tell him that. I remember doing a show going, why is he buying Scamacca when he's nothing like Antonio, which is how he wants a striker to play. So he did have choices.
Yeah, you know what? A big part of management is delegation. A big part of leadership is delegation. And when you've got a football manager, you should delegate the hiring of new players to them. They should make the choices. You should just do the funding of it. But you don't delegate your judgment to them either. So when it comes to judging whether that manager can use those players or whether he is making the best use of those players, especially if it happens over and over and over again, like it did with David Moyes, then that calls into question, you know, it should with an owner who switched on, should call into question the manager a little bit. But I don't really want to go down that Moyes route again. I am just a bit concerned that all these stories have started to come out at a time when people have started calling for a striker. Suddenly, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's out there. As someone said in the chat last night, he's a sort-house player. He has got... I spent about 10 minutes on him last night talking about all the different problems he's had. We don't want to touch him. If it was a choice, you don't touch him. Antonio is a known quantity. But as a striker, he hasn't scored goals for a couple of seasons, as we know. He's no longer... He never really was a striker. He was a very good winger, a good finisher, and he bullied defenders. But he's now had a really serious car accident, was nearly killed. He's got to come back to Premier League fitness and play that physical game again. I just don't believe he can do it. So I think Potter's being forced into options that he doesn't want to take. And if the question is, do you think Potter should be cheeky enough as to say what he wants and what he doesn't want? I think the answer is yes. He should bloody say what he wants and what he doesn't want. And if he's trying to force players on him, like he's done to every other manager, and Potter's saying, no, I don't want that player, bloody good on Potter. Good on Potter.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's the only way to go with Sullivan is really put your foot down and say,
yes,
no way, because we've suffered when he gave Moyes the Christmas present of Danny Ings, which was a massive failure on 125 grand a week. He scored what, five goals. I don't even want to work out how much that cost us per goal.
Woeful.
And we I'm kind of with you, Chris. Like, I know I've resisted talking about having a new goalie. I really like Areola. I've always liked Areola. I think he's a great shot stopper, but the modern goalie, you absolutely need a modern goalie, and I would have put my eggs in the striker basket rather than going out for another goalie. But now that Fabianski's gone, we are in that position where we do need a goalie. But I'm with you, Chris. I kind of think, but surely we equally need a striker as well. But it's looking likely, well, if the stories are true, that we're going to put a bid in for Hermansen. Apparently we made an approach today for him, which means that we're not going to have the money to go out and get ourselves a striker.
Would you prioritise spending that much money still on a goalkeeper? Let's say hypothetically it's 30 to 35 million pounds or euros or whatever it is for Hermansen.
Say that again, mate, sorry.
Would you prioritise spending 30 to 35 million on a goalkeeper, which is what Hermansen will cost if we sign him, over signing midfield player?
No, I personally wouldn't. No.
Well, since Nigel's not here, let's hark back to the difference Phil Parkes made to the 1979 West Ham team. You know what I mean? A keeper can make, my point is, a keeper can make a huge difference to a football team.
I'll tell you what I think about the Hermansen deal, which might solve a problem for all of us, is this. I think, he is going to be worth about 30 odd million, Chris. You're absolutely right. But we've got the option of a loan deal as well. What might suit Leicester? Leicester, bear with me. Hear me out. I could be talking I usually do talk bollocks, but bear me out. We could approach Leicester and say, look, we'll give you a loan offer with either an option or obligation to buy, dependent on what happens to you guys at the end of next season. If you come up, if you get promoted again, fair enough, you're going to want Hermansen back, so it'll be an option. If you don't come up, then it'll become an obligation. Now, that saves us a lot of money. We pay a loan fee for a very good goalkeeper, albeit only for one. But then that leaves money in the pot, doesn't it? To go and get ourselves.
Why would we do that and potentially give away a fundamental piece of our team? You got to remember, go back to like that Leicester team that won the league. Would they have done that without Schmeichel? Go back to any great team has got a great keeper. You can't just have a patch-up goalkeeper. I don't want him for a year. I want him to be a permanent fixture.
I'm kind of with Stowe on this, Gal. Sorry, I'm going to go against you here.
You're free to disagree.
Purely because I don't think we can think too far ahead into the future right now. I think we are with a lot of the players that we're signing, the youngsters that we sign, which is great. But I think for a goalkeeper, if we're talking about throwing all of our transfer kitty on a goalkeeper, then we've got so many holes in other areas of the pitch that we need to basically, focus on, which we can't, like midfield, for instance, and up front. So if it means getting that goalkeeper on loan, with a small loan fee, for instance, with an obligation or whatever, based on those kind of, the terms you just mentioned.
Midfielder. No, not instead of midfield.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So if it frees up money, then I would do that deal, because I think it brings us a good goalkeeper. We can still go out and sign a midfielder, and we can also sign a striker potentially. Yeah. But if we go and throw all the money at that, we're screwed.
That's my
Midfield and
thinking. So
keeper
you're absolutely
are-
right. He's going to be a very expensive goalie. You
They're
know,
not.
he's going to be a
Harvey
very
Elliott,
good goalie, but very expensive one.
Elliott could be a loan, right? That could be a loan deal.
Yeah. I think there
So-
will be some loans, Gal. I think some of those
Yeah.
will be loans, you know. I do.
Oh, he's generous, Charles.
Why not? We're allowed 2 loan signings from domestic leagues, you
Yeah.
know, so why not the likes of Hermansen and Elliott? I've got a couple of strikers I'm going to talk about as possible loans as well. But,
Yeah.
you know, we can do that, can't we?
We
And
can.
thank
yeah.
you, Charles. Really
Yeah.
appreciated, mate. That is so generous. Thank you so much.
Let me go back to basics. I don't care. Let's reestate. Let's just put my rules. I don't care as long as he's given the players he needs for this season. I don't care. That's what I'm thinking underneath it all. He needs the players to create his style of football. However we get them, we get them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why we don't look at a loan for the Southampton midfielder as well, Matthias Fernandes. Could we not get him on loan as well?
Well, we can only loan one player from any one team. So, yeah. But, you know, if we don't loan Hermansen, we could loan Fernandes, yeah.
Fernandes is Southampton, though, isn't he? Right? So
You could get it at Southampton, keep it Chris, the one you like.
oh gosh, could you imagine? Honestly, I do not want him. Ramsdale, the relegator. No, thank you. God,
Well,
no.
well, here's a question for you both. You know, everyone's going, oh, we don't want him because he got relegated with Southampton. Hermansen did get relegated with Leicester.
Yeah, no,
He did.
He also
But he
had
didn't get
amazing-
relegated 5,000 times, though, still.
No. He had amazing stats for a defense. I looked at. I ain't got the stats in front of me now, but for a team
Wasn't
that had such a porous defense, he was a great keeper. And as Chris said, when we played them, we peppered that goal up there.
And I was there that night as well.
Yeah.
And I remember walking away thinking, how on earth? I think I walked out when I think we scored our goal when I was just walking out.
I couldn't believe it either. I was there and I was thinking, how on earth have we not scored a goal tonight? It was unbelievable. I think on that performance alone, I'd love to bring him into West Ham, and certainly over Ramsdale. Oh, no, that would just be a disaster.
No, don't even say that.
Good with his feet.
That's why I
Good with
didn't
his
say
feet.
it.
I'll give him
That's why I
that.
didn't- Yeah.
I mean, you know, Ramsdale and Hermansen, so they're both, I mean, obviously they're much more better in terms of distribution than what we've got right now in Areola. They are. But I do not want Ramsdale because I just think he's
Loan with an option. Middle.
No, I don't want any options. I don't want any options.
Not
at all.
Ramsdale. Forget Ramsdale. Stop mentioning him. You've given me shakes, right? But I think Hermansen, loan with an option to buy, I would settle for that. Not with a loan with an option to give back.
Well,
Same
option
thing.
is the same thing, really, Gary, because, you know,
same thing.
if Leicester turn around and say we want him back, we've got no choice.
Not if we've got an option. We've got an option. They ain't got any choice.
Well, the option is theirs. It's not ours.
No. If we've got an option to buy,
oh, no,
we've
it
got an
goes both
option to buy.
ways. Sorry, it goes both ways.
Right.
All right. Talking of loans, I've got some now. I can't. I mean, no. Before we came on, I messaged Sean and said I do not believe that we're not even going for a striker on loan. And I've got 4 strikers on here on Premier League books that we could go for. You're not going to all agree with them, but I'm just giving you a taste of. So first up. Now, we know, by the way, the 4 clubs I'm going to mention, they're all looking for new strikers.
Nunes is on a free.
He's not free. He's not free, Gal.
I was going to say,
he's not free.
Oh,
He's still
loan. Yeah, of course. When did he sign for them? 2 seasons ago.
Something like that. Yeah, we were linked with him as well. We were linked with him
before they got him. Yeah.
Would you take him on a loan deal?
Yes.
Yes.
Harry?
Yes. Definitely.
Well, okay, we agree with that one.
Still?
That's the first one.
Would you take him?
Go on, still.
Nicholas Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take him. Absolutely.
On a loan deal.
He's a good player.
Yeah, for sure. I would take both. I mean, look, I know Nunes. A lot of Liverpool fans say he couldn't at Barn Door, but I don't know. I think he's. Well, we've got one striker still. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. And if we're looking at loan players, then yeah, of course, I'll take both of those guys in a flash.
Okay, 2 out of 2. I'm impressed. I thought we were going to disagree. Jesus, Arsenal. Have they just signed Gyökeres or about to? Oh, you're both.
Well, he's an injury-prone striker, isn't he? He's had a lot of injuries. So that's the only thing that, in terms of talent, yeah, he's a good player. But
yeah, I'm undecided. But if If we ended up with him being the only option, yeah, go on.
And the last one.
No.
Oh, that's the one that, yeah. So all these players have got one thing in common. They were great at their former clubs. They come, well, apart from the last one, great at their former clubs, come to the big club, they get the big deal, and then they're a little fish in a big pond rather than a big fish in a small pond, and they go down the toilet. Now, that means their talent's either suddenly disappeared overnight and they've completely lost it mentally, or there's still a player in there who, if he came and he was once again the big fish in a small pond, he could suddenly be a good player again. That goes for Højlund as well. So I think Højlund, I'd have a stab at him. And Jackson, attitude is everything. And that's what Eamon Green says there. He says Nick Jackson's got a bad attitude, but he's also got a very good goal scoring record. But bad attitude, you don't want anyone upset in the dressing room.
But do you see where I'm going with this?
There's loads available.
We're being told that Potter doesn't want anyone because we can't afford anyone. That's not the same as Potter doesn't want anyone, full stop. We can't afford anyone does for me. And I did ask, I said, surely that means we can go, no, Potter doesn't want a striker. I refuse. Maybe my head is going,
I'm not believing it still. I'm choosing not to believe it.
Either. I can't believe that at all. And I'm trying to stay away from a lot of this noise at the moment because
it's not a hypothetical. I try not to quote Sean. I'm not going to suddenly agree that what he said is true and sort of argue against it as though it is, because I don't believe it. It's come from a very impure source. It's the club owner who nobody trusts and nobody likes.
Well, apparently,
your thoughts still on those strikers?
Apparently, it hasn't come from the source.
Where's it come from then? Where's it come from then? What source has given it to him? Yeah.
Still, what are your thoughts on those strikers? Which ones would you take?
My thoughts, let me go back to them. My thoughts, I would absolutely go for Nunes. I think what you said, Gary, small fish in a big pond now rather than the other way round, means he can come to somewhere like West Ham and remind Liverpool why they signed him in the first place.
Yes.
So I would agree with that. I didn't know about Jackson and his attitude problem, and that might sway me a little bit. I totally agree with you in terms of Jesus, Arsenal and his injury status, but I would
like him.
Also
I quite like
Højlund.
Yeah, I quite like him.
I think it's much the same as Nunes. He's come in. It's not quite worked out for him. We know he's a good striker.
Yeah,
and if we can't afford one, then blow me, get a loan.
Even if
it's a loan deal for a season as backup. When Fulkrug gets that injury, isn't that better than nothing at all?
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Well, in that case, we'll take all of them because we don't. With no backups.
All right, I'm going to wrap up. We've talked an awful lot about a lot. What are your expectations? I mean, I know it's early doors. I know we've still got 4 or 5 weeks of the transfer window left. We all agree that we've got to bulk up the midfield. We have no choice. I think with Hermansen, if it is Hermansen coming in, I think we can more or less say our defense is pretty much rock solid. I quite like the fact that Agurd is coming back. I think he's got something to prove. Dinos, whether you love him or not, he's going to be a backup there.
Still. I love him.
So our defensive line is sorted, but our wide players are sorted. I'm really looking for it's what you said earlier, Chris. That first game that Potter took over, and the I felt the buzz. Didn't you feel the buzz in the stadium?
Big time.
At half time, you were going, fucking hell.
Yeah, finally, he's cracked the code. Yeah.
It just felt like, my God, we're going to absolutely. And then he didn't come out in the second half. And we're like, and I'm looking forward to Somerville. Really, smashing it, Nick. I think he will. I think he's a decent player. Some say he's a bit lightweight, but I think he's a decent player.
I think he's going to be chomping at the bit for next season. I really do. If you looked at the interview he did the other day, I think he really wants to show the West Ham fans what he's about. And I think, honestly, this is the reason why I do think we've got every reasons to be optimistic, because there are a lot of players, and I'll repeat myself again, that do have a genuine point to prove. And I think they might surprise a few people, providing we get the midfield right. That is the key. I think we could surprise, a few fans. I'm not saying we're going to be top 10 or anything like that, but I think we may well be better than what we actually think we are, or a lot of fans think we are anyway.
Yeah, because I'll go back to this. What we've currently got, when you look at that on paper, to be honest with you, that's not a bad side.
It's a mid-table Premier League side. If it's playing
a solid,
well, it's organised,
mid-table Premier League, but it's not all, it's not altogether a bad side. It's just that a lot of players, like you guys have said, didn't turn up last season for one reason or another. But you add to that, and I agree with you, Chris. I think there's more to look forward to than people think. I think we've got the doom over Kudus has gone, and he's gone to a rival and all that sort of stuff, and we're not spending the money. And look, we've spent the money on just defenders, etc. But you're absolutely right. If we get ourselves in a couple of pretty decent midfielders, even if we don't get a striker, surely there's something to look forward to.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I really, really do. And I just want to go into the season trying to, feel a bit of excitement and optimism going into a game, because we haven't had that. And I think probably, I don't know, maybe it was my kind of choice subconsciously. I don't know. I was going into it feeling negative a lot last season, but I like the fact that we're trying to bring in young players with a point to prove, and that for me is enough for us to get behind West Ham next season, and we should all get behind West Ham next season, right? Regardless of who we sign, I just think it's so important, really, really important. It's a key time for us right now, a transitional stage, right? Really is.
Yeah, well, people are saying that we're right for relegation, and the one thing that we don't want is the fan base turning. You want that support, don't you? I mean, you guys go to away games as much as I do, and you feel the support there. We need that at London Stadium, don't we? We need a good start to the season.
I don't think
we got Chelsea on a Friday night.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing. Under the lights in the first game of the season.
You're right. I don't think we've ever had the away fans in the home ground, even at Upton Park. I mean, it was rare, wasn't it? It was rare. They're the best fans. The away fans are the best fans. I got to say, they're just no requirements. They just go and support the team. And this season, I'm going to get back to basics, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to supporting the team, and that means for me, don't start a game in a negative place. Like you see a formation, you go, what the fuck? So you start down here at -5, and you got to climb yourself back to 0 before you can get in any way positive. I'm going to start like I used to do, look forward to going to the game to support the team, whatever team selected, whatever players are selected, whatever formation. I ain't going to demand entertainment or anything like that. I just want to see us win enough games to have a fairly good season.
I do want to be entertained, and I do want to smash a few teams.
Of course,
we want to smash Spurs when we play them. Oh yeah, and I want to see. Who do I want to see? I want to see Dinos get a red card for smashing into Kudus.
Oh,
you want Dinos?
If he does that, I want the shirt back, Gary. If he does that, I want the shirt back straight away.
Honestly, if he becomes that player, I mean, if he will be a national, he'll be a hero. He'll be a hero around this forever. I'll put that shirt in the middle of my wall in the background, Chris. When I've done it, I will.
You'll be wearing it every day, just squeezing into it. But no, I'm kind of like Gary still. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and when I first started supporting West Ham as a kid, right? Did I go into those games expecting or demanding anything, or did I feel negative when I saw the team sheet coming out or anything? I genuinely didn't. I just went into it and I was supporting the team no matter what. So that's exactly how I'm going to start this season, is whoever we've got out there, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, I'm just going to go out there and give it my all as a fan, because look, the 12th man counts. It does. We've spoken to players that say the same thing to us. It makes such a big, big difference. It really does. And I think, if you're a real fan, you've got to go out there and cheer them on as much as you can do. Yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yes.
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very much. First time for you on this channel, Chris. Thank you for coming back, Gary.
Thank you for having me.
Really, really appreciate it. It's given me a taste to do another live show. Like I said at the beginning, I won't lie. I kind of like, it's almost a psychological thing. I decided I wasn't going to do a live show since when the season ended. I thought I'm going to give myself a break, and I feel better for it, to be quite honest with you. But this given me a flavour, and another reason why I thought to do a live is because I hit 9,000 subscribers today.
Congratulations!
Which is super. No, thank you.
Deserved.
And I thought I'd give people a treat, and it was a treat having you guys on. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a great channel still. I watch it all the time. It's a great channel. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Chris. And likewise, same back to you guys. What you're doing on your channel is superb. By the way, I didn't even, people, if you've yet to subscribe, Bobby Moore Stand, please do subscribe to that channel as well. Very good content as well. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Del.
Thank you.
Oops, let's get that. Cheers, Chris. Right, people. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. My apologies. I couldn't sort of, reply to the comments that you guys were putting up, but I really, really appreciate all the comments that you put up. I'll be back soon. I'm sure there'll be another show tomorrow about the latest transfer that we're not signing. So do watch out for that. Have a good rest of the evening, and I'll see you soon.